For tonight, we'd like you to join the Farming Valley Trails Council. I'm Stephen Mitchell. I'm a league cycling instructor, as well as a car dealer. I'm a very interesting combination. I was actually on the board of East Coast Greenway for 8 years. The first board meeting I was at in New York City, gentleman came in late and he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm probably got the biggest carbon footprint here. And he goes, what do you do? I said, I'm a car dealer. He goes, no, got you beat. Remember they said that I was going to be flying in late? I said, yep. He goes, I fly 777s. So no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, you'll run into cyclists when you least expect it. And little did you know that the captain of your 777 was on the board of the East Coast Greenway also. But there she is. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And Doug's coming too.
It's funny, they call it on Mitchell time, but you guys got me, no, just kidding. Welcome. So tonight's presentation, let me get through this first. Yeah, registration waivers and sign back there, sign in there. Restrooms, ladies' rooms, men's room, can't get more convenient than that. Water fountain is around here. We got some lemonade around there. Emergencies, exits, pick a door. So that's housekeeping stuff right there. We'll go back here. And tonight's being videotaped for Simsbury Community Television, which they put everything on YouTube and is available out there in the world. One of the things that we're going to go into, first off, we're going to get into the actual e-bike. The reason why am I doing this? Why is Mitchell Subaru sponsoring this tonight? And it was follow-up from 2 weeks ago. We did about the same thing down in Volkswagen. We are a bicycle-friendly business. I don't know if you're aware of this. Connecticut is 13th in the country for bicycle-friendly states. We jumped 7 spots the past year. Commissioner Eucalito has commissioned a new department in the state of Connecticut. It's called the Active Transportation Unit. Does that sound correct? Yeah. So we're gaining momentum with becoming more and more bicycle friendly. The DOT is actually recognizing Bike Walk Connecticut, and we helped the state fill out the application this year. I think that had something to do with it. One reason why I'm passionate about putting on e-bike seminars is because e-biking is becoming more and more prevalent. Bicycle seller, we've got 3 bike shops here represented here tonight. Jan from Benidorm. Yep, and Doug, there we go. And Ray is bike seller, and he's our videographer tonight. And Paul, where did Paul go? There he is, he's back there. So we have 3, which is pretty cool that we've got the 3 major bike shops in the center of the Farmington Valley that will be selling e-bikes. And I think the emphasis of the reason why I'm doing this and why I would like to put this on is I want Connecticut to get on the front of this whole e-bike debacle and a little bit of a mess. We're going to get into the differences between Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Class 1 and Class 2 bring you up to 20 miles an hour. It's the problem is the Class 3, and that in the legislature right now in the Connecticut legislature is a mess. And I asked the DMV Commissioner Eucalito, Tony Guerrera. There we go, Tony Guerrera. Tony, tell me the straight scoop on what's going to go on the Capitol with the legislation for e-bikes. He looked at me 2 weeks ago and he goes, absolutely nothing. Because nobody can decide what is an e-bike, what is a motor, what's a motor vehicle. And so we're going to get into a little bit of that tonight. But Jan, why don't you kick it off with the difference between Class 1 and Class 2?
Do you want me to come up there?
Yeah, you're front and center.
So class 1, class 2. Class 1 and class 2 are pedal assist bikes that are going to cut away the assistance at 20 miles an hour. Class 3, I don't think I'm talking on that, but
Yep.
goes to 28 miles an
Yep.
hour. Class 1 is requiring your pedal assistance, and so we really pretty try to keep that as a focal point of conversation, that Class 1 pedal assist, you're only getting the assistance based upon your effort being put into the pedaling. Class 2, you can get the assistance up to 20 miles an hour, but you can also use the throttle,
Class 3.
throttle to get you up to speed. It does not require you to pedal. So that's your nutshell of Class 1, Class 2. Would you like more?
What's the difference in the kilowatts and the mileage you're going to get out of them and the different modes?
So it's a pretty funny conversation, and Doug, I would invite you to come up and if there are questions more specific to this, but this is a day in and day out conversation at the bike shop, and people come in like, what is the watt hour of this and the torque, and really what it comes down to is, I like to try and leave that as a back conversation, because the most important part to understand is you need a bike just like any other bike to serve how you want to ride. And being able to ride the way you want to ride, the way you're going to be able to easily transport it if you're not riding from your home, is really pretty critical to consider. The other thing is that what impacts you and your ride experience and the battery life is going to be what level of assistance you keep it in. Many of these bikes are going to have something that is 1, 2, or 3 levels of assistance, maybe 4, and some are going to be able to be ridden without any assistance on at all. So you're able to, toggle through those levels as you ride. The terrain. So we live in a hilly area. If you're riding it on roads, the terrain with being hillier is going to, impact that battery life. The rider weight is going to impact that battery life, as well as the level of assistance that rider is calling upon. So, we encourage people, the efficiency of riding a pedal assist bike is going to be with maintaining a 79 to 90, cadence. And so it is designed to ride just like a bike, call upon the assistance as your body needs it, or your eyes are telling you, hill ahead, I need more assistance. So those are really what's impacting battery, and leaving watt hours and all that aside.
What do you sell more of at your store, Class 1 or Class 2?
As of this day, we have not brought a Class 2 into our bike shop.
Yep.
It's something that we really believe in, pedaling a bike to be able to let that be transportation, and recreation. But Class 2 is, we're going to see that on a bike that's right over here to our left, that blue Trek Dual Sport 2 Plus. That is going to turn into a bike that has a throttle to it. And, we're not going to navigate our way around that. It will be something that is Class 2. And, so we've navigated thus far, encouraging people to pedal. We still will always encourage people to pedal, but we certainly understand the conversation for some people where you want that assistance through a throttle to get yourself through that traffic intersection. But
I think in the car business we call it a turbo.
turbo.
Yeah. It's much like riding the same, and we're not really reinventing the wheel. We're just giving a little extra power to your pushing, so you get a little extra turbo.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Doug?
Well, certainly with a Class 2 bike, it's more than turbo. You do not need to pedal the bike at all.
Right.
So it's a throttle assistance.
Right.
But it's, I think that just with everything, I think that over the years, in the past 5 years, the e-bike market has exploded, and what you're seeing is more value
Right.
in these bikes. So
Right.
as each year goes by, there are continuous improvements made to these bikes that have led to improved efficiencies and lighter weight.
I'm assuming you only sell UL certified e-bikes, because there's a little bit of a controversy and some danger on the bikes you might get off the internet. They might not be UL certified, which could lead to fire hazards.
Yeah,
So-
of course, there are. The interesting thing about Underwriter Labs is that is a for-profit organization. I don't know how objective they are, but
Yep.
They are regarded very highly for their testing. There's also and of course all of our bikes do meet these UL certifications, whether it be a Trek bike or a Cannondale bike or any other e-bike that's sold through a brick and mortar bike shop.
Okay.
So I do know that there's also a European standard that is actually very, very high as well, and that is often more stringent and probably more highly respected than the UL certification. But you'll find
Right.
pretty much everything
But
nowadays.
I would say pretty much any of the stores in the Farmington Valley are going to sell UL certified.
I mean, no one
bikes, yeah.
wants to have a battery issue.
Right.
But still, I do not recommend that anybody leave a bicycle on a charger unattended.
Right.
I would never leave my house with a bike on a charger.
Right.
And I wouldn't go to sleep at night with a bike on a
No,
charger.
no, not going to sleep.
No
Not going
matter
to sleep
how good
well.
the
Yeah.
certification is.
Yeah.
So.
So
It is a battery after all, right?
Right.
And so even the considerations of, there are proper ways of either storing your bike, whether, it's 90 degrees, 100 degrees outside, or your garage is really hot because it's a super hot week.
Yep.
You're leaving your bike in a bike rack with the sun beating down on it, or in the, sub 20 degree weather of the wintertime. All of
Okay.
those have, their impacts on the batteries of these bikes. In addition to what, Doug and Steve are both talking about, like all of these bikes as well, like a conversation that hasn't really been, we haven't really become clear on is insurance. Insurance is something that is like, okay, people, think about how you're transporting your bike and making sure that your homeowners, or whatever your insurance is, business insurance.
Right.
We we had to find insurance that would work with us with e-bikes. So, those are not just,
Are you finding a hard time with insurance? Because I know bike sellers that the same conversation with e-bikes.
I haven't had my insurance agent say anything to me yet. But
Okay.
They haven't gotten back.
Yeah.
I have mentioned it to them, but no one's responded.
yeah.
Okay.
So I know that we've had that conversation with
Yeah.
customers saying, you need to ask your homeowners.
Right.
about
Okay. No, that's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. So,
Now, you're talking
So-
insurance, you're talking theft of the bike or liability for one?
Liability, replacement, damage.
Both
Yeah.
liability and value.
right.
You're talking homeowners.
Homeowners.
Yeah.
Homeowners would be more of like, liability if there was damage because of a fire, or, theft is theft, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So
Not to
that's.
put the big cloud over it, but those are,
Yeah, no. These are different issues. These as we get into technology and so on and so forth. So that's basically the big difference between class 1 and class 2 is the throttle aspect.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
They'll both bring you up to 20.
they don't bring you up to 20.
Well, They'll
they're-
assist you
they
up to 20.
assist.
Yeah. Okay.
The class 2 can bring you up to 20. What that means is that there is a limit to the speed that a class 1 or class 2 will achieve, whether through throttle or through the pedal
Right.
assist. So that means, if you're pedaling at 12 miles an hour all on your own, it is not making you go 15 miles an hour.
Right.
It's not, if you crest over a hill and you're going downhill, if you're worried about it taking you to some other planet or some other speed, it's not. It's just, if you're putting pressure into the pedal to take you at 15 or 20, it's there to assist you.
Right. Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah.
Paul, I'm going to give you, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the hot potato, but go ahead.
Couple questions. This class 1, 2, and 3, is that a US standard, a worldwide standard, or is there any?
It's a global,
It's a
global.
US standard.
So if you go to
It's
Europe.
a US, no, it's not.
It's
It's a
US.
US standard. The class system is probably an international standard, but the European class 1 speed is lower than the US. I believe it's 18 miles an hour.
Good.
Not 20.
Question.
Have you found on any of the bikes you sold that a class 1 is good enough for any of the situations around here, like say Collinsville, Huckleberry? I mean, any super steep, have you found like it's just not gonna help?
yeah, and we've had quite a variety of customers, whether it's somebody that's never ridden a bike, whether it's a health situation that has, taken a person to a bike, whether it's wellness, whatever. Like, there's the whole spectrum of rider, there's the whole spectrum of terrain, right? And it really comes down to what the rider is looking for that assistance. Yes, it can make it up, Queens Peak, Huckleberry Hill, people have ridden them around the reservoir, and understanding, even a bike like that, say you could go 40 miles on one battery charge on that. It's all gonna be dependent upon how much you call upon that assistance. And if you say, for example, Huckleberry Hill, if you have it in like a number 9, meaning a harder gear on your bike, and
Right.
you choose to put it in turbo, right? It's gonna be a hard pedal for you, but you're getting the assistance that is, helping to move you along.
No, that's a good point. You still have to shift like you're going, like you don't want to drive a car up a hill in 5th gear, for example, because it just puts so much strain. So most of the e-bikes are single chain ring in the front, so you don't have to worry about the front derailleur, but many of them are 6, 8 gears on the cog on the back.
Well, and come visit us sometime if you really have questions, but because the world of e-bikes and pedal assist is not just limited to recreational use, flat bar, fitness type bikes. It is your mountain bike.
Yep.
It is full suspension mountain bike. It is a road bike, gravel bike, fitness bike. It's any, and then there are ones that.
And recumbent. We'll get into that in a few minutes.
It's
So-
anything can have a pedal assist,
Yeah.
but it's a matter again of how you want to ride, how you're going to transport it, and then it comes into your budget. But
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
fun.
And just
Thank you.
one follow-up question.
Good.
Do they have any kind of regenerative function like the electric cars do? So if you pedal, you're not at all, there's no regenerative?
No.
Models that I'm aware of, they do not.
No, no, good question, because cars do have that, yeah. But anyway, I'm saving the hot potato for Paul.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
When you set the assist, do you set like 50% up?
So this is a pretty cool thing. It's depending upon the system that is on the bike, and again, so many brands having these pedal assist, having different, motor systems.
Eco-friendly or
But you can
turbo,
control it maybe through
whatever.
an app on your phone, and like that blue bike, there's it's a favorite app of mine where, you can get this lifetime starburst, oh, I could ride to Springfield, or no, wait, if I put it into turbo, I'm gonna make it to Southwick.
Yeah.
It's a constant feedback of where you are.
You set how much assistance you want.
So
correct.
we can go into a system, and so say a bike has EcoSport Turbo, we could go in Or you could go in, and make each one of those ranges, you could make eco be a closer to like a sport type of level of assistance. So you can modify that or just use it as the default settings. And that's not, I don't think that's with every system. That is gonna be with certain bikes and the type of motor, that they're using.
I think most of the bikes coming out now, you have the app and you can program how much speed you want to go up to. Like some people, it just goes too fast, so they can actually have it so it only goes up to 15 miles an hour assist. And usually I'd say every one I've seen, I don't know about you guys, but it's always like the left thumb. You can control on the fly how much assist you're getting. So if you're going up a hill, you can go from like 3 assist or 1 assist up to 5 and just back down and just leave your thumb.
Funny you should say 15, because just so we're all clear and we're all on the same page, 15 miles an hour, correct me if I'm wrong, is what the recommended speed limit is on the Farming Valley trails around here. Are class 3 allowed on, no, so class 3 are not even allowed. It's class 1 and class 2 for the Farming Valley trail system. So, but to talk about the hot potato subject is Paul Steffen. Go ahead.
I think
Go ahead.
the e-market is changing so fast and you're getting a lot more for your money than you just a couple years ago. The batteries are getting more powerful, they're smaller, bikes are getting lighter, and then they're also getting more programmable. So you can have it so like you have a class 3 bike, or actually some of the class 2 bikes now, you can adjust to make it a class 3. So you can have a throttle up to 28 miles an hour. Like that gray bike there is set at 20 miles an hour, but you can change it to 28. You can dummy it down to 15 miles an hour. Some of the bigger name brands are actually doing the same thing right now. So you can have like a full suspension mountain bike. It's set as a class 1. You can assist up to 20 miles an hour, but you can change it to 28 miles an hour if you want to. Now, I wouldn't suggest it, but you can do that. So, as those guys presented earlier, very clearly, anytime you're on one of these e-bikes and you're going up a hill, most people, they are so used to having the difficulty going up a hill. But when you have assist from the motor, you usually don't know what gear you're in. And most of the time, I find that people are in too hard of a gear, but they don't notice it. So basically what you do is the motor needs to work hard, all right? These like to be in higher gear, and they want to basically make it higher revolution. So in your mind, when you were riding one of these e-bikes, you got to change gears like you would like any normal bike, which can be difficult when you first start up because you have the assist, so it's easy. And like they alluded to before, as far as battery life goes, when it's cold or hot, you will not get as much distance on the battery. And from the standpoint of speed, I've been on the bike path, quite a bit. And I think that the biggest problem I'm seeing right now is not so much these bikes, but we see a lot of kids with those motorcycle-looking bikes, and they take the limiter off, and they can go 40 miles an hour on those things. And they are flying up and down the bike path. I think that is probably the biggest issue that I've seen so far.
Yeah, in Colorado last weekend, I was doing grandpa duty out in Lafayette and Lewiston, Colorado, right next to Boulder. And a 12-year-old goes by. He did have a helmet on, but in the school parking lot, he had a class 3 and he's popping wheelies for like 70, 80 feet, popping wheelies on a class 3. So it's going to be interesting, and really the hot potato in the room is the class 3. You sell class 3, correct? Yep.
So yeah, like this bike right here, you can make it a class 3 if you wanted to.
But if you do, it's class 2.
Class 2, yeah.
But, so that means it has the throttle.
It has a throttle, correct. Right
And
on
then
the
if
side.
you increase the speed, the limiting speed to 28,
Yeah,
the throttle still works?
yeah, you
Then
can,
it doesn't meet the state's definition
you can change the
of class
throttle,
3. Because the state's
yeah. It's
definition,
20 miles an hour.
no, the state's definition of class 3
Oh, it's
is
20,
that
yeah.
it's just pedal
Pedal
assist.
assist, yeah. Yeah, but all these bikes are coming programmable now, and you can change the amount of throttle you get up to 28 miles an hour.
I think that's essentially class 4.
There's
It's something weird in the new legislation, there was something weird about if you could change things, but what they were trying to do, and I think the legislation is going forward, is in Connecticut, an e-bike is class 1, class 2, class 3. If it doesn't fit into one of those categories, it's a motorcycle, or I forget what they define it as.
Right. And this is where Steve was speaking to this earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, people were wild about embracing e-bikes, and yet we didn't have it figured out. Like, what's it gonna mean on a bike path? What's it gonna mean on the road? You know, what are the speeds? Who's ridden over 28 miles an hour here on their own effort? I have. But, you know, it's like, you know, but it's a dangerous speed
Yeah.
to go if you're not like, if you aren't used to it, and if you're not ready to handle the weight of a bike like that, if you have to suddenly stop. You know, sure, if it's taken a car off the road that, you know, allows like for better infrastructure, that somebody's riding that bike at 28 miles an hour and they're, you know, they're going to be getting to work on time. You know, there's some applications where it fits into people's lives, but for the recreational part of it, you know, 28 miles an hour is a really
It's fast, right,
Yeah.
And I
right.
think right now the law says class 3 can't go on any trails.
That's what we were
Unless the
talking about, yes,
municipality
yes,
permits it, right?
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
And
But a lot of people don't know that, and the bikes aren't, are they? They don't say class.
They do.
no,
They do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that bike, the blue bike is designated, yeah, and it's like, that is stuff that, you know, they'll maybe refer to it as bricking a bike, like making it do something that it was not designed to do.
right.
You know, those are up to individual choices, but, you know, it's up to whether it's Farmington Valley Trails, you know, it's up to our towns, how we're going to enforce that. And
Right.
I think enforcement is like the key. I mean, it's not like, you know, police are just hanging out waiting to see if someone's going with a radar gun on a bike path, see if they're going, you know, 18 miles an hour or 22, you know what I mean?
I don't feel that we want to do what Massachusetts did. And in Massachusetts, under 16 years old cannot ride an e-bike. It's illegal. On the other side of the spectrum, Oregon, if it's got two wheels and it's got pedals, it's a bike. And it's the Wild West. So, you know, and I think the most important thing with whatever class you're riding, as I saw out in Colorado this past weekend, just ride with respect. And that's kind of the overlying message, that you don't want to get into, particularly Southington, Cheshire, Simsbury, Avon, Canton on the River Trail, and be flying by somebody at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know, a group of people with 30 miles an hour. That's just, yeah.
I think that we will see, you know, as this is a more common conversation, I think that we will see different sections of the bike path having the proper posting and informing people, you know, like, as with everything, it's education, it's making people aware, so that, you know, that signage will start to help people realize what that bike path is used for and what those speed, you know, constraints should be or considerations. So, yeah.
I think that most people, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, as you get older, like I think that most of us are in here, you know, you got bad hips, your neck hurts, you know, and, you know, you want to be able to get on a bike easily. And last thing you're looking to do is go 20 miles an hour on like an e-bike that weighs, you know, upwards of 75 pounds. You know, based on what I've seen on the bike path, I'd say most of the people are pretty respectful. You know, in our age group, they're going 15, 16, 17 miles an hour.
It's those damn kids.
Now you sound really old.
Sound like an old guy.
Steve, is there any crash data yet? I know e-bikes are relatively new, but is there crash data? Because my experience, I've never ridden an e-bike, but we had friends our age that are using e-bikes, and they tend not to be as good a cyclists as my normal friends. Is there data out there? Are there lots of crashes?
I can't speak to what that data is, but I'm sure that whether it's the League of American Cyclists, or the People for Bikes, I'm sure that data is, coming about.
I think Connecticut doesn't distinguish when there's a bike crash. I don't think they don't have a way on their form to call it out as anything besides a bike.
I know that recently we just had a Route 44 corridor study that was calling out whether pedestrian, bike, those crashes to differentiate between the type of vehicle.
But they don't know if it's an e-bike.
Right,
versus a
yeah,
regular
you're right,
bike,
yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Right. What I just pointed out to everybody, and this is, as Fran knows, I steal ideas from other towns, other states. The call out on your left in Avon, those signs came from North Carolina. What I saw in Lafayette, Colorado, not only a speed limit on the trails, but an e-bike, which this will bring you, the QR code will bring you to the town's website. Hint, hint, we got to get Brandon and our birdies down in Avon to put the QR code brings you right to the town's website. And on the town's website, it'll tell you the specific e-bike rules for that town, for Lafayette. So that's not a bad idea for Simsbury, for the Farmington Valley. The one thing that I think, really if I had to give, credit to someone that started this whole movement of bike friendliness, is really Mary Glassman back in 2009. Mary Glassman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Here, Stephen, help make Simsbury a bike-friendly community." And I looked at her and I said, "What's that?" And she goes, "I don't know. You're a cyclist. You figure it out." So Simsbury was really the first town, but really where we're going with this whole bike-friendly community and the whole League of American Cyclists, bike-friendly states stuff, is that Simsbury, Avon, Canton, Farmington, West Hartford, soon to be Bloomfield, Hartford's already got it, soon to be East Hartford, Manchester just got it. So all of these towns in the capital region will all be contiguous bicycle-friendly communities, BFCs. And so when I spoke to Allison down in the League of American Bicyclists, she's head of education, I said, "Allison, please give me a template or something for, who's doing what with e-bikes." And after about a 10-second pause, she goes, "Well, Ken out in San Diego, he's doing it." So there really is no one that's really taking it on. We've got a few LCIs in this room. LCIs, raise your hands. Yep. So yeah, so we are all in the same group of league cycling instructors. We've been through the 3-day program and we know how to teach people how to ride. The town of Avon is really taking it on. Hopefully Canton will follow soon with the bike education in the schools. Just yesterday, Avon was trying to implement a middle school program for bike education. So the Bike Walk Connecticut trailer was over there yesterday. But so again, the e-bike, what we're trying to do is trying to educate the public and invite you into the e-bike world as you need. And my first experience was 10 years ago, and I'm riding up a hill in Southington along the on-road East Coast Greenway route, and this nice lady in her 70s, I'm in my 50s, my mid-50s, and I'm in good shape, and I'm riding up this hill, and she's keeping up with me. And I'm like, this is 2012, and she goes, do you want to see my secret? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What's your And she twisted her her wrist, and I'm like, what is that? She goes, it's an e-bike. I'm like, okay. When I'm in my 70s, maybe, but you know, it's interesting. I'm now a certified old guy. I've got an e-bike.
It doesn't have to be age-based at all.
No, but as you alluded to, even the mountain bikes, that community's even getting, which are very fit people, but they're even getting into the whole e-bike thing for that stuff. But
I think it's great.
go ahead.
Can you talk about the differences between the heavy bikes, the wash system and the Molly motors and things like that? The differences of the heavy bikes and the lighter road bikes are like 3 and 4 pounds more.
Right. So
Is that
so
later?
first off, thank you for saying that, because that's probably one of the biggest differences with e-bikes is because they are, I think the lightest e-bike, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably 48 pounds, huh?
E-bike, 24 pounds.
That bike is under 40 pounds right there, that big bike.
Under 40 pounds. Okay. So,
Blue one is
but,
too.
okay. How much?
Oh, it's.
The price,
it's, I don't know, $1,800.
Okay.
But it's a hub drive system.
Yep.
It's got a 250 watt hour battery, you know, and those are all things that play into the bike's
Right.
range.
Right. The one thing that I will say, just as an observer, I'm not in the bike industry, but the price of them has come down considerably, and you've got them in your store for
We have them from $1,100 to $8,000.
yeah. Same with your store, basically. Yeah. So the
There's been an incentive through Connecticut with the voucher system as well for people getting vouchers.
and
towards
that
it.
comes and goes with.
It's happened the past 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. And so those are,
That's the system through DEEP, through the assistance through DEEP.
Cheaper, they call it cheaper.
The cheaper program, right?
Any bike under 3,000, people get up to $1,250 credit.
and not any bike, there's a list, a whole qualification.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how much you want to go down this path of like talking about all the specifics of hub drive, mid-drive, whatever, throttles, you think this, but it's not that. So I don't know how much you want to go down that, but if anyone has that interest of learning, I'd encourage you to go to one of your local bike shops and go learn. The internet can be a boggling place, and certainly my personal experience, having someone that comes in from doing a lot of research online, they come in with such confusion because they're getting information that really is not even going to end up pertaining to them. Sure, it gives a foundation of understanding, but I just encourage you to go into your local bike shop, encourage your friends or family to do that as well, because you're really going to be provided an opportunity to learn and then to test ride. That's going to be your only thing that allows you to put it together as to what it really means to be class 1, class 2, class 3, step through, hub drive, mid drive, 60-pound bike, 40-pound bike. And believe me, every one of these bikes that comes that is something that is of a typically mid-drive removable battery, those bikes are 60 to 70 pounds.
Right.
And we have to carry them into a shop to assemble them, to service it. So you really want to be informed about making that decision. So
How have people been transporting the heavier bikes? I mean, not
Right.
everybody
You have-
can lift them onto a regular
that's right.
pulley,
So
Right.
there are
No, good
receiver
point.
hitch racks. So if you have a vehicle, I always say buy your vehicle based upon how you want to transport your fund. So make sure you're talking to people about their receiver hitches.
Right.
Because if your future sees a receiver hitch or carrying an e-bike in the future, you want to have a receiver hitch on your vehicle. Receiver hitch is a 1 1/4 or a 2-inch square little thing under the bumper that is going to allow you to carry 1 or 2 bikes. Different racks from the various companies will give weight restrictions as to per bike or the total weight of the rack. And then some models will even have a ramp that could be integrated
Right.
into that rack, so you're wheeling it up.
that's-
You're not gonna use a rack that has the arms that come up like that. Some may be able to carry a bike like that blue Dual Sport there, but, you know, like the Velotrek there, that would be too heavy for putting on a rack that has arms,
So, but even though like the drop-down Thule, you know, that comes down off the receiver hitch, you still gotta lift it up. I mean,
Right, and so there are
you might know, but
models,
some people have problems lifting a 60-pound bike.
Right.
That's
Even
right.
that drop-down Thule rack.
yep,
The most common
Do have
rack,
racks though. They got ramps now on some of these.
they've got ramps,
like if
right?
you have a rack that has like the cradle for your front
Right,
and rear
right.
wheel,
Right.
that's gonna be more challenging to get a ramp to go into that, but some of the newer models allow, like that tray is almost, it's not flat, but it allows for a ramp to be inserted into it. And then in many bikes, there will be a walk assist mode, so that when you're wheeling it up the ramp, you can have it in that walk assist to push it up.
And pretty much all the e-bike racks, the platform racks you're talking about, you want a 2-inch hitch. That's really what.
That's what I was just gonna say, yeah. So the 1 1/4,
Depends on the size of your vehicle, because you could have a pickup truck where the 2-inch receiver is pretty high up off the ground as opposed to on a car or a van where you're only lifting it up 1.5 foot.
right, but you can also get drop downs
Even,
for even that, yeah,
Offset.
yeah.
even the rack technology is changing, and, you know, that whole market is, you know, these companies are all the rack companies are giving serious thought to their rack design, because so much more of it is based around pedal assist bikes. And, you know, as you say, there are little things where you can drop down about 6 inches on, you know, like on a pickup truck.
Yeah, that's true.
I know, we don't
That's just-
carry it. There's also another company that you attach the hitch rack to this device, and the device can lower, so you can actually bring it down, you know, on the ground. But just talking big bucks.
It's not going on the roof of the cars anymore.
No.
And all these racks are gonna be anywhere from $500 to, you know, $1,400. It's a serious investment, especially if you've gotta do any sort of transporting of that bike, because you can't just put it on it's hard to put in a vehicle. They're just much more cumbersome.
Sometimes it's easy to take the battery off, and you can actually travel with the battery off. You save like 8 to 10 pounds that way.
And a fair amount of people that I've noticed get 2 batteries with their e-bike. So Bob Wynot, right over here, rode his bike, not an e-bike, but rode his bike across country. He liked it so much he did it twice, right? So a great interview we did for Bike Walk Connecticut for the television show. We did it, and what's it called on? What do they call it?
Cross country.
So if you want to go on YouTube and see Bob talk about his 2 trips across country, but you would definitely want to bring an extra. If you're going across country, bring an extra battery. Yeah,
I met a guy who was riding cross country on an e-bike. He
Okay.
had 2 batteries. But
He had 2 batteries,
He had
okay.
to plan his stops according to how far he could go each day.
Yep.
A lot of bikes do have a range extender, so you just add it onto the battery that's already there. Yeah, a lot of full suspension mount bikes do that.
As far as removing the battery, we put our bikes inside our car. There's like a batch on our SUV.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them in there. We have removable batteries. We take the batteries out. We also take the front wheel off. We just take the front wheel off, take the battery out. And yes, you have to lift it up and put it sideways. Then you just secure it. And kind of the advantage of having that battery out is that we can leave the bike in the car, say, and bring the battery inside if we're going someplace that we're kind of concerned, you know?
Yep.
Because once the battery's not with the bike's worth a lot less.
Correct. Yeah.
Really, it's not gonna go anywhere. And you can
Right.
also take it out if you're going to a restaurant.
So that's like eating in Manhattan. Every bike courier takes their battery with them when they go into a restaurant. I don't know if you noticed that.
We
Right.
also bring it inside.
They
the
always have
car.
their batteries right there on the side when have their bikes outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bring it inside the charge, so we don't need to bring the bike inside.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting element. It's an interesting technology for bicycling, something that's been around for a long time. Any other questions on the e-bike stuff? Go ahead.
Could you discuss the brands that are producing e-bikes? Like if I wanted to go into your shop and look at bikes, I know what I would look for a normal bike. What are the frames made out of? Are they steel, titanium? What are the derailleur systems? What specifically should someone like me, looking at an e-bike, focus on?
I invite you to come into one of the local bike shops, seriously, because they're just like everything, they're good, better, best, right? And so most of the bikes are going to be aluminum. You might find, a mountain bike or a road bike that's carbon fiber. But to explain components meaning your braking system and your shifting, it's not going to do it any justice since you can't figure out you're going to have some bikes that have wrist grip shifting, some that are using your thumb and index finger.
The derailleur side.
Yeah, so derailleurs, just like if you take it, if you pretend that any bike that is
Were you able to get any
Plates and that.
Good.
considerations go on, what's the quality of the frame, what's the quality of the components that are on it, how good are the brakes, what are the tires, what's the wheel diameter, all of that is the first part. And that, then, that's gonna serve you as the rider if you wanna ride the bike path, if they're looking for more performance out of it. Or you're moving to a different type of bike. But, you're still having derailleurs on, for sure on the back. There are some cruiser type bikes that have one gear in the back and, still offer pedal assist. But as you go from, we call both of those bikes over there would be referred to as like a fitness category, and under that, or hybrid category, and under that umbrella, there's going to be cruiser, there's going to be hybrid, fitness, there's going to be kind of like a dual purpose, whether you're riding it on dirt roads, packed cinder bike paths, or paved roads. So,
Yeah, but here's the problem. Are we going at Schwinn, you kind of know the good bike brands.
Yeah.
With e-bikes, there's some
there's
brands
so
that
much.
we've never even heard
There's 400 in China.
of. And you don't want
Right.
to spend
Yeah.
$4,000, $5,000 for a pair of bikes. I don't even know the stability of some of those companies, to be honest with you.
Well,
Right.
and at our shop, we actually will turn away, like if it's something that we don't know and we have defined for our mechanics where those constraints will be, it's like, there's a risk by even changing a flat on some of these bikes, to think that it might be here, because they're not all just to take the wheel out, you might have some connector that's going into that wheel. So you can count on going to your local bike shop and knowing that you're going to get product that they're confident in having there, they're confident in working on, and whether the bike shop or the manufacturer of that bike, you have a relationship established to address any problem that should
Did
arise.
the traditional bike people miss the boat here and let all these new companies in that we've never even heard of before? Specifically,
Unfortunately, it's not like auto dealerships. Fortunately or unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, but really, it's not like we as a Subaru dealer have to have certain criteria. Subaru has to fit within IIHS safety standards. Bikes, unfortunately, the internet has become the Wild West, and anybody can set up a website and sell any bike out of China and so forth.
Get
But
5 emails a week, at least 5 to 10 emails a week comes I've never even heard of.
right.
Okay, I mean, I don't know how many factories are in China or wherever they're made that are just producing these e-bikes, and they constantly contact you. Sometimes I'll look at it and you can tell the components are garbage. The bike's not very good. So I think most of the major bike shops are dealing with a couple brands.
Bike seller had a very bad experience with some lady. She bought a e-bike off the internet.
Bike online, and her son was basically doing donuts with it, burned out the motor. And there's just absolutely, it's proprietary, and they can't even call the factory, can't even be contacted in China. So that that e-bike is done. It's
Yeah.
just $1,000 gone.
And I know on Amazon, there's a lot of really poor brands on there that people get, and, you know.
Is it fair to say that the e-bikes built now in Europe, like e-bike companies that have been in Europe for a longer time, they're expensive, but are they a bit more reliable or reputable?
Which one are you talking about specifically?
There's some in Germany. There's some built in Holland, Denmark. And they've been making e-bikes for quite some time.
I've got some emails from high-end companies, you know, like Porsche and all that stuff, and they're all nice bikes, but they're $6,000.
Does it come down to the drive motor, the drive system they're using?
Yes. Yeah.
Cannondale's using Bosch, the high-end, the Cannondale, the cargo bike that my son-in-law has it's a Bosch system, beautiful. And it's class 3, but it doesn't have a throttle. It's just pedal assist.
Up to 28 miles an hour.
Right. But it's rated to carry 1 adult and 2 kids on the back, these cargo bikes. So
I mean, you can buy an e-bike at Costco for $600, but their previous brand doesn't exist anymore. So there's just nothing you can do with that bike. So they just switch to a different, cheaper brand in China.
Yeah.
So it's
So transitioning over and kind of a different twist on tonight, but we're very fortunate to have Ken Messier back there with Titrikes, and just really kind of an interesting piece. Ken was very involved with Simsbury becoming a bike-friendly community early on, Simsbury Free Bike, those days. But Ken has a very unique, specialized e-bikes, and it's recumbent, and mainly what is military and veterans, probably half your business? Go ahead, Al.
More than half our business. We started developing these bikes in 2008, built the first manuals in 2009, and became the first really electric bike manufacturer in the country in 2010. So we've been making electric bikes way longer than anyone else. And by definition, 3 wheels and 2 wheels are both bikes in Connecticut and in almost every other state. So a 3-wheel bike or a trike is still a bicycle. I have been on Sandy's committee with the Connecticut Bike Pedestrian Advisory Board with the Department of Transportation and the Governor. And it's good to see her here attending a meeting like this to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So if you want to know about legislation, they probably follow it closer than anyone. So we developed these with NASA and Walter Reed for disabled vets back in 2008 and 9. And we do now, we manufacture in Connecticut. We're the only manufacturer that's a true U.S. manufacturer. Even our batteries are manufactured in Connecticut, not by us, but by another company. So we don't use pretty much any Chinese products except the motor, which we haven't found a U.S. motor manufacturer that is.
And your store, right now, your factory, your manufacturing is up in,
Manufacturing now is in Barkhamsted.
right off of 44th.
We used to be
yeah.
in Simsbury, but we got forced out when the pot plant.
The pot plant.
So we used to be on the trail. So we then transitioned around 2012, 2013, and started doing a lot of, with the military, we were doing amputees and we were doing traumatic brain injury was the primary focus. But then we started doing people with strokes, again, people with amputees, people with Parkinson's. We do tandems for blind. So we manufacture everything in Barkhamsted. We use titanium frames, we use high-end bike parts, so it's all regular bike parts. So that if you're not in Connecticut, any bike shop would know what the parts are that are on our bikes. We use 500-watt motors, 500-watt motors, 48 amp hour battery, 48 volt, 25 amp hour batteries, so that will go 50 to 60 miles in most cases. Most of the e-bikes that were being sold had amp hours in the teens.
Yeah.
Sometimes less. So
Yeah.
we try to get a lot more distance because most of our our riders are adaptive to some extent. Some of that's just age related. A lot of it's balance issues. If they get a doctor's certificate, then they can get a handicap class put on the front of their bike.
Yep.
And that allows, because it is adaptive, they fall under ADA regs and they can go places that other people may not be able to go. As an example, when we were talking in Simsbury, the town was talking about banning bikes on sidewalks. And some of the people that we have riding our bikes in Simsbury were saying, well, that's how I get around. And so, but under ADA, they could go on those in that area.
Right.
But as ADA, you can go on, or even without ADA, because it's a bicycle, you can go on any bike trail. We restrict ours through 1 and 2. We have both assist, power, pedal assist, and throttle on ours.
And they go how fast? Up to
20.
Up to 20. Okay. And where?
And we have 5. The way ours are all set up, they have it's 5 power levels plus 0, and then we use 10 speeds in the back and either 1 or 2 in the front.
And those are able to be utilized on the Farm and Valley Trails Council trails, correct? Correct.
Any trail.
Yep. Any trail.
Any trail in the country.
Yeah. ADA. Right. Okay. So. So anyway, so that's an interesting twist right here in Connecticut, and very lucky to have Ken. And I think it's awesome that you can take veterans and people that might not have all their legs and limbs and be able to still get out and ride for sure.
We have triple amputees that ride the bikes.
Yep. Wow.
And any bike that we make, any model that we make, we also make as a hand cycle. So if somebody's got spinal cord injuries that can only pedal with their hands, ours are all hand pedal.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you might cover this, but you customize, if someone comes in with a specific disability, you'll customize a bike for that disability?
Everything's customized for
Each bike, okay, very cool.
And there's no insurances that pay it.
I'm sorry?
I said there's no insurances that pay it.
I heard you the first time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Something we've been fighting for a long time, but haven't gotten there. We have had issues that we've dealt with Sandy and the state on, where they put bollards that are 36 inches instead of 42 or 44, which is what ADA requires. And I heard tonight from somebody that they're starting to put 36s in Cheshire. So we're gonna have to ride down there and
I'm guessing the VA is no
see
help.
what's happening with Cheshire.
VA is no help with paying for them either?
It's 39.
VA is no help with paying for them either?
The VA pays for if they're fully disabled, the VA pays for them.
Huh. Okay. Cool. So, so that's it. I promised pizza, so nobody has to cook tonight. So we got plenty of pizza. I'm going to go on for about 5 minutes on. Thank you, guys. Thank you. No. So that's the e-bike portion, and we'll circle back to this. But really, in the LCIs in the room can actually do what I'm doing. But the League of American Bicyclists on some level is pretty cool. Back in 1880, okay, so let's bring this to reality. 1880, the League of American Bicyclists was one of the first nonprofits in America. Started by a bunch of guys in Washington, D.C. Why? Does anybody know why? Take a guess.
To improve the quality of the roads.
To build roads for bicycles. So when somebody, and this happens to me, people come on, You know, because people are a little confused. Am I a car dealer or am I a bicyclist? Or what the hell am I? I'm still trying to figure that out. But people come up to me and goes, some lady at Memorial Day Parade with my mother 10 years ago, she goes, roads were built for cars. Not originally. In 1880, the League of American Bicyclists was a lobbying organization down in Washington, D.C., and they were lobbying to get roads built for bicycles. Henry Ford was born in 1863, and his first quadricycle was in 1896, I believe. So that was his first quadricycle, followed up by the Model A. Yes.
Really?
1903. So, and as you just pointed out, in Connecticut, in 1910?
1910, we had well over 100 bicycle manufacturers in Connecticut.
In Connecticut, right.
Many of them then threw engines on them, not necessarily electric, but some of them, then they became some of the first cars that we had.
Right, so
The first roads for bicycles, do you know why their first roads were then paved later on in 1920, 1921? Prohibition. Rum runners needed better roads, so they paid the county commissioners to pave the roads.
there's always an ulterior motive, right? But anyway, so that's the history, a little history of the league. The league actually promotes through information, advocacy, promotion. There's a group of us that go down to Washington, D.C., as we did this year, and we advocate for safer roads, for more money being spent towards infrastructure that accommodates bicycles. The truth is, and I'll give Route 44 as an example, in the 1960s, when I was a kid, Route 44 was a very safe road. I don't know if anybody in this room can remember Route 44 was a 2-lane road. In the 1970s, the DOT, Connecticut Department of Transportation, decided it should be a 4-lane road. How much did they widen Route 44? You know, how much? So we're never going to be Europe, I don't think, but we're trying to kind of get through our sins of the past of DOTs. And so, and Commissioner Eucalito, Anna Bergeron is head of the Active Transportation Unit in Connecticut now. Connecticut has, as I mentioned earlier, an Active Transportation Unit. So the state of Connecticut is actually taking a good step forward on trying to make cycling better and safer. And the other thing, when we go bicycle, one thing I learned a long time ago, this also spills over to pedestrian, and many of the local organizations, Bike Walk Avon, and I keep going back to Fran because she and I started Bike Walk Avon, which is largely a Facebook group, but we even have the town now, you know, buying stuff and making investments. Avon, as Canton, now has a bike ped plan for the future, of which the town is going to be following. So it's interesting how the government's complete streets and all of these new ideas and lanes, complete streets, a really good example, people are going to go, what's complete streets? That is so that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, it's when any new building or any new remodeling along Route 44, you might see a sidewalk in front of like Hartford Healthcare down in Avon, and it's a sidewalk right in front of the building. Well, what does that connect to? But nothing yet, but you got to start somewhere. And so Route 44, in the next 10 years, you'll be able to go from Collinsville to Avon Old Farms Hotel along Route 44. And in the plan that's done for Avon and Canton, Neil Pade, Bob Bessel, And many of the town leaders are trying to get together to come up with a plan to basically go in parallel Route 44. So, you know, it will happen, one thing at a time.
When you're talking parallel Route 44, you're talking a sidewalk, a bike path, or
A greenway,
or something that either one can use, or what?
a greenway.
Green.
Neil Pade from Canton has a greenway plan to go from, and actually it got funded from the end of the trail to the shops of Farmington Valley, which is a quarter mile. In the greenways world, we celebrate every quarter mile. And then it's been up to the shops of Farmington Valley to go through their legal department to go completely around the shops of Farmington Valley and end up on Secret Lake Road, and then somehow either behind Midas, probably behind Midas, and then go up Old Albany Turnpike to the new, what's it called, Misu 21? The new restaurant, is that right? And then actually Neil has a crosswalk there going to we're on the north side of 44 now, so coming across to the north side of 44 and going down the hill to Hoffman. And then actually when the town of Simsbury permitted Hoffman Auto Park, there's actually a 10-foot easement that goes around the perimeter of the Hoffman Auto Park that could be used for a greenway. So it's not easy, but there's plans and there's talks of that actually happening. So when I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about some of the basics. If you're in Florida, you can be an LCI, but you in order to do helmet fit, we'll do a quick helmet fit right before dinner. A quick helmet fit. The helmet should be not like this, and shouldn't be like, you shouldn't ride like a helmet like that. It should be kind of like this. A finger above your eyebrow is fine. In a really kind of a quick way, somebody showed me how to do this with a helmet fit. If it fits really well, you should be able to go like that. It's snug, not too over tight, and you should be able to go like this, and your helmet won't fall off. What we're going to do after pizza is we're going to go through some of the slides and go through the types of bikes. How to fit a bike. We're going to go through the basics of what's called safe cycling. It used to be called TS 101. And we're basically going to fly through this. This is actually, you'll get credit. This is the beginning of the beginning of a smart cycling class. The rest of this class will be on road. It'll be probably at the Mitchell Volkswagen dealership in Simsbury after the 4th of July. And if you are interested in signing up for that and you want to go through the course, you will get a diploma. And what will the diploma do, Laura? It'll allow you to become
It will allow you, it's the prerequisite to completing the LCI course, which is a 2.5-3 day course.
Yeah.
But it gives you certification at that point to instruct.
Yep.
Teach courses like this.
Yep.
Teach people how to ride.
Yep. Okay. So, so grab pizza. There's the smaller box is actually gluten-free, but hop up and we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes. It's the opportunity to change a tire. You know, in the world today, travel with a toolkit, a basic toolkit. And in the world today, how many people here are AAA members? One little cute little thing that I can take a little bit of credit for is AAA and other parts of the company, other parts of the country, they're all individually owned AAAs, and other AAA corporations started offering bicycle repairs. Now, they won't repair your bicycle. What they will do is they will pick you up with one of their tow trucks or one of their service vehicles, and they will bring you to the nearest bike shop. Yes, here in Connecticut, the AAA out of West Hartford will do that. So if you have AAA and you have a real bad breakdown, you can simply call your AAA and you can use your AAA card. So that's kind of interesting to know.
Steve, just a quick,
Yep.
make a quick plug about the benefits of taking a smart cycling, what used to be a TS 101. You might stop and think, well, I already know how to ride a bike. Why do I need to take that? We took it a number of years ago. I knew how to ride a bike, but I grew up in an area where I couldn't ride out on the side roads, right? So I didn't know about riding on the road. Took this TS 101 course, experienced all of that. I have no hesitation now to go out and ride on the road if I need to.
Right.
I try not to, but if I need to, I know what to do. I know how to take a lane. I know how to approach an intersection. So it gives you the confidence.
Thank you.
To do
That's,
that.
yes.
So if you're hesitating or not sure if it's worth your time, it definitely is.
Yes.
If you ride cycles, this course is definitely worth following. It'll make you a better cyclist. There's something in there that they go through as far as emergency situations and how to react to them. And during the parking lot maneuvers, you actually get to experience some of those situations in a controlled environment. And it's scary at first, but once you get it down, it's there if you need it. How to maneuver, how to stop quick, how to turn out of the way. Well worth it.
No, thank you, because, and I think what you said is very, very true, particularly with my wife, and with becoming more confident on the road. Can you ride on Connecticut roads on a bicycle? Yes. The only ones you can't ride on are interstate highways. However, you can ride on interstate highways on 8 states in the United States, just so you know. Wyoming you can, South Dakota, Idaho. So there are certain places, but as Laura was saying, the smart cycling course will give you the confidence to be able to ride on the road if you choose. And as I say, choose your roads. Certainly Route 10 in Simsbury, fine. Route Waterville Road, fine. Route 44 through Avon and Canton, maybe you don't, but you could. But taking the course might give you more confidence to do that if you so choose. But so we're all familiar with our bike, handlebars, saddle. Actually, during dinner here, the question came up, the chain rings. What's the difference between the chain rings and the cassette? Chain rings are in the front. The cassette, or what else? The other words? Cog set. Yes, thank you. Is in the back. We're not going to get into cross training, chaining, and all that stuff, but basically, Lita Highsmith is the only coach in Northeast, actually. She's the first Black female coach. Who trains LCIs is these people that are coaches. There's only 16 in the United States. But what she said, I was helping her with an LCI course in New Haven a month ago. And think of this not as necessarily higher gears or lower gears, because your higher gears are your smaller cassette pieces back here. Your friends are close, and your friends make it easy. So the closer to your spokes, the easier the gear. So think about this, that when you use your higher gears, you want to go faster, your chain is going to be further away from your spokes. When you want to go uphill, hold your friends close. Hold your chain closer to the spokes. It makes it easier. And this is true on any bike or an e-bike. You don't want to be going up a hill on an e-bike on the highest gear because you're going to wear out your battery. And so that's that. And I'm going to fly through a lot of these things because this thing was supposed to go to 8 o'clock, but we're going to be out of here by 7:30. Saddle height is very, very, very important. You don't want to get a bike, especially in the traditional frame. You don't want to get a bike that's too high. You want to be able to have, this is fine. There's 2 or 3 inches there before I get into trouble, and I can stand over the bike. This would be a good height for me. This would be a good fit for me. Somebody who's 5'7", 5'8", this would not be a good bike for them. You could get seriously hurt with something like that. So that would be too big of a bike. But again, your local bike shops will help you. But that's kind of the guide, is you should be able to easily get, stand on the road with a bike underneath you. And typically, as we're all individuals, we're all, your handlebar height, your shoulder height, and again, your good bike shops in the area will help you adjust the bike that fits you the best. ABC Quick Check. That is really something we should all do before we ever go for a ride. And it literally takes 15 seconds to do an ABC bike check. A stands for air. Okay, thank you. B stands for brakes. C stands for chain. And just make sure that your chain is working and there's not links in the chain that are clumped up. As long as we're on that, what is one thing, and I'm talking real, and I'm talking we all have these things. When should you answer your phone when somebody calls you when you're riding a bike?
Once you stop.
Thank you.
When you stop.
Thank you.
If I'm on my bike, it can't be done.
We won a Volvo trip to Aspen, Colorado about 3 or 4 years ago, and my wife, who is an LCI, answered her phone. Now, probably most of us in here are right-handed. Okay, phone in right hand. Hello, stop sign 20 feet ahead. You're going 15 miles an hour. Hello, what brake do I have right now? What did my wife do? Yes, she did. Never just let your phone go to voicemail. So, but that's important rule. Phone, and it's interesting because we now have these GPS ride with GPS. Everything in our life is integrated to these darn phones. Watch Dateline; they'll even solve crimes on using your cell phone because they know where you are. Okay, this is really important. And lots of times I'll wear my league cycling instructor shirt. I wanted to wear just normal stuff tonight because really my attraction to an e-bike personally, I've always wondered how to be able to ride to the dealerships in Simsbury, Canton, whatever. But I don't want to be sweaty when I get there. So you know, just normal clothes. And the really cool thing about most of the e-bikes now is you can simply go in street clothes and regular shoes and just hop on a bike and go. And that to me is very attractive. You don't have to have the clip-in pedals and you don't have to wear the shorts and that kind of stuff, but you can. But the e-bikes make it easy to get around, go for a gallon of milk or whatever. Yes, plan on bringing a lock, even in the Farmington Valley. I lived in Boston for a while, and trust me, bikes just disappeared, and especially e-bikes now. We went through the helmet fit. I also teach at elementary schools, and the bicycle is actually your first vehicle you get as a kid. It's your first vehicle. So, and we teach the laws of Connecticut. We teach the laws. You're supposed to ride on what side of the road? The right-hand side of the road. You're supposed to walk on the
Facing the traffic.
Correct. And it's interesting, in the United States of America, the greenways, where are most people walking on the greenways? Which side?
On the right side.
And the bikes are also on what?
Right side.
Interesting dilemma.
On your left.
Thank you. So always call out on your left. There's one exception. One state that's an exception.
That might change with the legislation they're pushing through.
Okay, so right now, there's one exception. It's Rhode Island. If you go to Rhode Island and you're on the greenways in Rhode Island, you'll see cyclists on the right-hand side, just like the roads, but you will see pedestrians walking on the left side. And actually makes sense, but I'm not going to get into that stuff tonight. So just between you and I, anybody else in this room going cross country on a bike? Okay, so there's 4 of us that have been. Why are we still alive? It's a really good question. So the most important rule of the road, if I'm a cyclist and I'm doing this, you're a motorist behind me, I'm doing this, what am I trying to convey to you, the motorist? I'm trying to convey that I want to do what? Let's take a left turn, right? If I'm here and I'm doing this, take a right, okay? I know it's what we were taught when we were driving. If you don't have signal lights, you're going to go and you're going to do this, which means you're going to do what?
Go right.
Anybody old enough? Yeah, go right. Just go like that. and sometimes in the situation I can think of real easy is in front of the White Church in Simsbury. When you're going south on Route 10, it splits into like 2 or 3. There's a left turn lane, there's a go straight lane, and there's a sweeping kind of around the church right lane. And sometimes I think it's the Florida State. I go like this, meaning I'm going straight, okay? And the most thing, and it really comes down to being predictable.
People not stopping to go right on red. And you're on Route 10, right by Old Farms.
Yep.
Old Farms Road.
Yep.
And people whipping around there. You know, you're actually supposed to be on the right side of that, where they're gonna run you over.
Right. Right. No, like I say, the reason why we're still alive is you got eyes in you got eyes in the back of your head. You've learned how to scan, and the one thing the Lee really doesn't tell you about what I believe in is you can hear what's behind you. You can tell whether you got a cement truck behind you or a Prius.
I ride with a mirror. I would not ride without a mirror now.
Yeah. Wear bright clothing. I came around the corner down to Unionville 2 weeks ago. It was 8:30 in the morning, but it was really dark, and somebody running with brown shorts and a black shirt on. And it's just like, no. The biggest word, and what I would say in teaching and anybody who's ridden long distances, Carly Simon had the song Anticipation, Anticipation. So you're constantly watching the road, you're constantly anticipating potholes, glass, read the road, right, Rob? Read the road. But you're also anticipating hills. So being in the right gear is really important. So just because you went down a hill and you just crossed over a stream, don't stay in 10th gear or 15th, don't stay in your high gear for a long time, because soon you're going to be going up. If you just cross a stream, what's next? You're going to be doing what? You're going to be going back up a hill. So gear down before you need, and we've all done it, we've all seen it. You're standing up in too high of a gear, and then you try to change your gears, and it's crunch, crunch, grind. So anticipate. The door zone, if you ride even in the center of Simsbury, the center of West Hartford, always be suspect of the car that's parked. Is there anybody in that car? Are they about to open the door? So always be aware when you're going by cars that the door might pop open. And I've seen that happen, actually. Railroad tracks. Ride the State a few years ago in Plainville. A very good experienced rider, and it was a day like today, it was raining, and he hit the railroad tracks at a 45-degree angle. And he hit the ground right after that. So at what angle do you take a railroad track? 90 degrees. Definitely perpendicular. So, that's happened to me actually a few times, or it hasn't happened to me personally, but.
Can I add
yep.
one
Go ahead.
thing on your list that you may want to add? I ride in New Britain a lot.
Yep.
When somebody's on an intersection, make eye contact.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Make eye contact.
Yes.
Make sure that they actually saw you, not that you saw them.
Make eye contact. No.
Sorry.
No. Thank you.
I thought you were, okay.
No, that's good. So, wear a helmet, getting on and off your bike. And again, we're not going to go into total bike skills here tonight, but does everybody know what a power pedal position is? Okay, so when you come to a stop sign, you come to a stoplight, you want to be able to get back on your bike and get going. Put the pedal in about the 2 o'clock position. That's what is known as the power pedal position. So as soon as the light turns green, all I'm really doing is getting on my bike and pushing down. Whoop. That's the power pedal position. Because otherwise, if your pedal is already down at the 6 o'clock position, then I get on the bike and I don't have that same oomph. And basically all it is just getting to this. A bicycle is interesting. What keeps a bicycle upright? It's a gyroscope. Basically, when you're riding a bicycle, you are riding two you're basically, it's a gyroscope. That's what keeps you up, because as soon as you stop, bike falls over. Kind of interesting thing to do. Sometimes when I'm teaching kids, we'll take the front wheel off and try this sometime. Take your wheel, just spin it, and try to turn it. It's really hard to do, yeah. So, starting, stopping, steering in a straight line, trying to, these are bike control methods, and we can go on to that when we get into the course, the on-road stuff. Shifting, scanning. Scanning is simply being able to look back and use your peripheral vision to see if there's a car behind you, truck behind you, or is clear, and you can, if you want to take a left turn, you can simply look back. If there's nobody, then you can go, and do your signaling. If there's a car 20 feet behind you, let it go by. And there's always one thing of taking a left turn or doing a turn off a road, especially a multi-use road, a multi-lane road. As soon as I get off a bicycle, I'm now a pedestrian, right? So I've used that. If you think about this, I-95 ends in Miami. What's after that? It's Route 1 from Miami to the Keys. Yeah, it's Route 1 from all the way down to Key West, right? So Homestead, the towns south of Miami, there's actual intersections that are, I think they're 100 feet wide, and they're 3 lanes each direction with each one 2 lanes, so they're literally 10 lanes wide. I'm not taking a left off of that road. Stop, use the crosswalk button, and walk, across. So there's different ways to skin the cat there. We talked about the shifting the gears. I said we're not going to get into cross training too much. Cross chaining. Okay. Scanning, I talked about scanning. Signaling, we went over that. Okay, so where should I ride on the road? Most roads, town roads, state roads around here, you're going to be on the right-hand side of the road. In what situations, Bob, would you take the lane such as this person has done?
Approach a busy intersection.
Busy intersection?
Those cars crowding you out of the road.
Yep.
In Connecticut, legally, you're allowed to take the lane. Right.
Okay. So the cyclist over here on this side, riding on the white line, is a technique I wouldn't recommend. This is obviously a very narrow lane. So what Bob said, which is really true, take the lane. Lane positioning, changing lanes, intersection, lane positioning. The person on the bike has a basic right to the road. You're entitled to space the road that you need to operate safely. In this situation, the safest place to ride is in the middle of the lane. Changing lanes. Okay, so if you are, as I said, you're scanning, you want to get into, in this situation, you want to get into the left turn lane. And as long as you don't see this situation going on, as long as you're clear, this person would be clear, be fine. the other thing, and what I was going to say is, if you're riding with other people, one of the biggest things I learned through the League of American Bicyclists cycling stuff, if you're crossing, for example, from the trail and you're going across Country Club Road in Avon, it takes how long for a car going 40 miles an hour to go 100 feet? The answer is 1.13 seconds. So in 5 seconds, things can change big time. So the one thing I learned is, we're all guilty of this, or all situation, when you get to Country Club, to cross Country Club and you're on the trail, clear! Don't do that. Because if somebody is, say, 5 seconds or 50, 60 feet behind you, by the time they get to the road, it might not be clear. So just be super clear that you're an individual, and where you are on that road and where cars are on the road might be different than the guy that yelled clear 5 seconds ago. So be aware of that. Lane positioning at an intersection. If you're going to take a left and you come up to a traffic light, this is a red light. If you want to take a left, get over onto that side of the road and be visible, and just state what you want to do. And as I said before, if I'm this guy and I got cars behind me and I'm in the middle, we're looking at a red light and I'm the first one up there, I am doing the Florida State University chant, right? I'm going straight. And this guy would be putting out his right arm. And technically, for example, if this is obviously urban riding, and cars in urban settings generally are not going 50, 60 miles an hour. Again, if this is rush hour and you feel like a little overwhelmed by this type of an intersection type of situation, then get off your bike, get on the sidewalk, and hit the push button and go across. There's no shame. You're still alive. Don't squeeze your way up to the front. Safe thing to do is wait for the traffic to move. I always kind of get out of the way of cars unless I'm taking a left or if I'm really taking the lane. Double right turn. Again, when you're thinking about this intersection is way down here, and you want to put yourself, you don't wait until the intersection to try to move that far over. Scan, look over. If there's no cars coming and you're safe, then certainly get into this lane if you want to go straight. So this is a good reminder, what lane should I be in? And the key is the rightmost lane that serves your direction of travel. So for example, if you're taking a left, if the cyclist was in this lane, that's not really a good spot. that's not advisable. So the rightmost lane which serves your direction of travel. There we go. When making a left turn from one-way street onto another one-way street, it's easiest to ride around the corner on the left. Okay. Again, we were talking earlier about on and off ramps. again, depending on the traffic pattern, if you've got, if this road is intersecting here and you've got 10 or 15 cars coming at you at 60 miles an hour or at a very high rate of speed, if it were me, I would stop right here and let them go by. But, you know, you certainly can intersect with this, but again, it's your situational awareness of how fast cars are going and how fast you want to ride. So be careful out there. That's all. Riding on sidewalks can be dangerous. The one thing I checked, because we have loaner bicycles here at the dealership and we let our customers ride, they're not riding on 44. I don't want them riding on 44. The Canton Police have said to me specifically, if your customers want to ride from your dealership to the trail, they can do so on the sidewalk. So, and again, that's a local ordinance. And okay, what is a protected bike lane? You've probably seen these. Where have you seen protected bike lanes? Have you seen them? Huh?
West Hartford.
West Hartford. Yeah, a little shout out to West Hartford and Hartford. West Hartford's really taking bicycle safety very seriously. And so you'll see some, and then there's one in Hartford too, and Capitol Ave.
The state capitol's got it.
Yeah, they've got protected bike lanes there, yes.
At the intersection.
Yeah, what's interesting, one of our sales managers was down in Washington, D.C. last week. Where are the bike lanes in Washington, D.C.? Has anybody been down there yet? In the middle of the road. They're not on the side roads. The bike lanes are in the middle of the road in Washington. So, yep. Bike boxes. Ever heard of that expression? Bike boxes, okay. So this is a bike box. Probably the there's a couple in Hartford, I think. Maybe not. I know there are in Boston. So this is specifically for bicyclists at red lights. Again, this is an urban environment. Buffered bike lanes, raised bike lanes. I am not a huge fan of the raised bike lanes. Sometimes, and I've in Dallas, Texas, they're not Jersey barriers, but they might as well be. They're curbing that protect the cars from the bicyclists, but I'm not a fan of it's like a Jersey barrier for bicyclists, and what could go wrong? Huh? I feel very boxed in, and if there's somebody coming, there's no way to go out onto the road at all. You're confined in a 4-foot area, and I'm not a huge fan.
You feel like it's right next to a guardrail?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's.
So they just use concrete.
Riding the wrong way riding on sidewalks can be dangerous. Just, again, situational awareness, ignoring stop signs, and believe me, sometimes whenever we have a police officer in some of my classes, it comes with the big discussion we can talk about for 15 minutes is what constitutes a stop at a stop sign. Just be aware when you come to a 4-way intersection. Just be acutely aware of cars coming across, and they might not have a stop sign. So, just be extremely aware of that.
I think the big one I call it the right hook. When the car passes you and turns right in front of you.
Yes.
They don't realize how fast you're really going.
Yep.
The perception, I don't think they perceive how quickly you are.
Right.
Be really aware of that.
Right.
See, one of the things, I'm pretty good signaling, but I don't always signal my right turns because the car behind me might be turning right. And I don't want them to turn around me. So I let them think I'm going right.
So if you were going straight and a car was behind you and they were taking a right, to understand what Bob was talking about, the right hook would be as if the cyclist was about to here, and the driver doesn't realize how fast the cyclist is going, 20 miles an hour, and the car just says, screw it, I'm taking a right. That's the right hook. So
Somebody on Route 44 here in the last 15 years.
oh yeah, yep. No, it's. And again, what I'm talking about here is all situational awareness and being very aware. Left side, hazard and biking, sidewalks, that's where I was. Okay, so bike control, don't fall or collide with others. When you, this gets into group riding and a whole nother discussion, but be very aware when you're riding with other people that they may be stopping. You know, when you're riding, you're supposed to say, you know, stopping, slowing, you're pointing out hazards on the road. But just a lot of people, including me, have been a victim of colliding with the person in front of you, or dogs. Be aware. When I was riding across country, when bicycle pumps were about this long, remember those old bike pumps? Saved my butt one day with a German Shepherd. Yes. So yeah, obey the law. Don't cause traffic crashes. Positioning, make sure that you're, and again, you have the ability to take the lane and you are right, but as I say to a lot of people, don't be dead right. So you avoid, and again, this is anticipation, anticipate the car in front of you taking a right or a left, or somebody parked might be opening a door. Passive safety, yeah, wear helmet, and you see the cyclists with cycling gloves on. That has saved my hands a number of times, and anytime I've crashed without the gloves on, I can't use hands for like 2 weeks after that. So surface types of hazards, and I looked at Bob a few minutes ago and I said, read the road. So you're constantly, as a cyclist, you're constantly looking at the road. You're analyzing 15, 20, 40, 50 feet ahead of you. Are there potholes? Are there cracks? You know, what's the condition of the road? Dooring is a big one. Visibility, time of day. One thing I did because I rode the wrong way across the country. He rode the correct way from west to east. I rode from east to west. Never professed to be the smartest guy in the room. But anyway, I didn't find the headwinds that bad. It wasn't for me. But the one thing I did in the evening, and particularly on a sunny evening, 7, 8 o'clock at night, I just got off the road, because if you're going if you're going west, 7, 8 o'clock at night, people, you know, glare. So be aware of that. And that's as far as I'm going to take this tonight, unless anybody has any other questions or comments. And you will all be getting an invitation to continue the course on road, and that will likely be right after 4th of July weekend. It'll be second or third weekend of July. And that will be on-road skills and so on and so forth. We'll have a few e-bikes there if you want to try. And the most important thing is we want to be able to apply the e-bike to regular cycling. So even though tonight's presentation, a lot of it was about e-bikes and we're trying to accommodate and talk about e-bikes, a lot of this is still basic bicycling skills. It's a bike, it's got a turbo on it. And I didn't say this in the beginning, but yes, e-bikes are cheating. So, but it will give you, it'll give you some confidence in your ability to ride further. If you want to go from Avon to Westfield, Massachusetts on the trail, you can do it and, burn 800 calories on an e-bike, whereas if you were on a traditional bike, you'd probably burn 2,000 calories doing the same distance. So it is less effort. It on some degree, it is cheating, but if you want to be able to, rediscover, I think a lot of people, and I think Jan brought this up earlier, if you want to rediscover bicycling and enjoyment of the independence that you feel of bicycling, and it's just hard, or your muscles aren't what they used to be. And as my mother said, getting old isn't for sissies. So, but it's a great way to get back into it and to enjoy it. But again, as Laura said, if you want to finish this course and we do some riding on the road, most likely Route 10 in Simsbury, but we do a mixture of trail riding, we do a mixture of riding on Route 10, and you'll gain your confidence and ride with others, and you'll get a great certificate at the end and be a more confident rider. Anybody have any questions or comments on or anything that you want to add from your experience?
Practice.
Yes.
I do little things. Leaves in the road, practice swerving around the leaves on a quiet road. Practice hard stopping. You need to know what your bike's going to do when you grab those brakes, when you need to stop.
Yep.
Unless you've done it, you're not going to be able to do it.
Right. And slamming on the brakes without the tush push.
Right.
And the NFL just said the tush push is okay. Right. In the bicycling world, it's just the opposite. And what we're talking about is if you slam on the brakes and you go back with your weight, it'll prevent you from going over the handlebars like my wife did. So that's, but there's certain skills, avoidance, quick turn. There are certain skills that, as Bob just said, you practice. You're in a very controlled environment in the class. There's no cars. It's in a parking lot, and there's drills that we use, little tennis balls and little courses and that kind of stuff. And that's it. So unless anybody's got anything else to add, go ahead.
Just one thing about the skill level is a lot of people when they ride and you really want to know what's going on behind you, and you turn your head, what happens to the bike?
Right.
It goes left. Right?
That is a skill level. That is a learned skill, because Paul is right, because if you do this, what did I just do with my arms, right? So one of the skill levels, and one of the things that we go over when we're on bike, and one of the practices is to do this. Because when you do this, you can still ride straight, but it's helping you get your peripheral vision around. But that takes, as you said, that takes practice, right? So or ride with a mirror. That's one way to do that. So that's it. Unless anybody has any other questions, but thank you, and yay! Okay.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.